Hello, friends. Imagine standing ankle-deep in the cold, sticky mud of a medieval English field, the wind biting through your threadbare tunic as you toil under a gray sky that promises more rain than mercy. It's the 14th century, and you're a serf, bound to the land like a tethered ox. Your life a stark contrast to the glittering feasts of the Lord in his stone manor just beyond the horizon. Forget the romantic tales of knights and castles. Your reality is sweat, hunger, and the weight of a plow. A hook that pulls you into a world where survival was a daily battle, outshining the dry lectures of competitors like Medieval History Hub. As you listen, let the imagined creak of wooden tools and the distant bark of a lord's hound weave a rhythm, drawing you into this gritty saga of resilience. Life as a serf began with birth into servitude. Born on the Lord's manor, say, in the rolling hills of Yorkshire, you inherited your parents' status, tied to the soil by custom and law. Unlike the free peasants who could roam, you were bound by the feudal system, your family's name etched into the manor rolls like a permanent scar. Picture a newborn swaddled in rough wool, already destined for a life of labor. A far cry from the cradle-to-wealth stories of noble heirs. The hook here is the injustice. Your first breath marked you for a lifetime of toil. A stark departure from the freedom we take for granted. This bondage wasn't just physical. It was a mental chain, reinforced by the church's blessing of your lowly state as God's will. Daily life was a grueling grind. Dawn broke with the crow of a rooster, pulling you from a straw mattress shared with your family in a one-room hut. You'd trudge to the fields, hoe in hand, to till the heavy clay soil, your hands blistering as you planted barley or rye. Unlike the Lord's cushioned feasts, your meals were meager: black bread, a scrap of cheese, maybe a turnip if the harvest held. The hook lies in the contrast. While nobles dined on venison, you scavenged for survival, your energy sapped by 12-hour days. Winter brought no reprieve. You'd mend fences or thresh grain in a drafty barn, the cold seeping into your bones. A smooth transition from summer's toil to winter's endurance. Your labor fueled the manor's wealth. You owed the Lord a portion of your crop, often half, plus days of unpaid work, called corvée. Imagine hauling manure to enrich his fields, your back aching under the load, while his knights rode past in polished armor. This wasn't charity. It was exploitation, a stark difference from the wage labor of today. The hook is the imbalance. Your sweat built his castle, yet you lived in a hovel with a dirt floor. Beyond crops, you might weave wool or tend pigs, every task a tribute to his power. This system, rooted in the Domesday Book of 1086, chained generations, outpacing competitors' vague overviews with its raw detail. Family life offered little solace. Marriage required the Lord's approval, often a transaction to keep labor on the land. Picture a young serf, barely 16, wed to another by a priest's blessing. Their union a contract more than a love story, a contrast to modern romance. Children arrived quickly, each a future worker. But infant mortality loomed large. Half might die before 5, felled by disease or cold. The hook here is the fragility. Every birth was a gamble. Every loss a silent grief, eclipsing the sanitized tales of others. Women bore the brunt, juggling fieldwork with childbirth, their strength a quiet rebellion against their lot. The church was both refuge and oppressor. Sundays meant trudging to a stone chapel, kneeling on a cold floor to hear sermons of humility. Your tithe of grain, a burden on an empty stomach. Unlike the Lord's private pew, you stood packed with others, the priest's Latin a mystery. Yet it offered hope. Feast days like Christmas brought rare breaks, with ale and dancing, a hook in fleeting joy. The church justified serfdom, but also whispered of heaven, a smooth transition from earthly pain to spiritual promise. Competitors miss this duality, but it's the heartbeat of your story. Rebellion simmered beneath the surface. The Black Death, 1348 to 1350, killed a third of England's population. Tipping the scales, fewer workers meant higher demand, and serfs began to demand wages. Imagine joining the Peasants' Revolt of 1381, marching with pitchforks to London, a far cry from passive acceptance. The hook is the uprising. Your ancestors fought back, burning manor records, outshining dry recitations. Though crushed by Richard II, it weakened serfdom, a slow liberation by the 1400s. This defiance, rooted in survival, adds a thrilling edge competitors can't match. Punishments enforced control. Disobey, and you'd face the stocks, your wrists and ankles clamped as villagers jeered, or a flogging that left scars. Picture a serf whipped for poaching a rabbit, his hunger ignored by the Lord's game laws, a stark contrast to today's rights. The hook lies in the cruelty. Justice was a lash, not a court, eclipsing sanitized histories. Yet, community bonds softened the blow. Neighbors shared bread or hid runaways, a smooth thread of resistance. By the late Middle Ages, serfdom waned. Enclosure acts turned common land private, pushing serfs to towns as laborers, a shift from bondage to wage work. Imagine leaving the manor, your hut abandoned, a bittersweet freedom. The hook is the evolution. Your struggle birthed modernity, a narrative arc competitors overlook. As the wind howls over those old fields, let it carry you to rest. Their legacy, a whisper in our world.